عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me the strength to deliver the message that I have and the ability for you as the audience to understand it. First, I have to apologize that me as a speaker, it's not actually proper because I'm not a scholar. I'm just a student of knowledge. I thank Masjid Ali, especially Sheikh Yasir, to give me the chance to speak today, because it is an effort to get the two community together. It's just a simple effort to bring the Bengali community and the Yemeni community together, because indeed our ancestors, the ancestors of the Yemeni community, they came to Bangladesh and they were the one who gave the da'wah. And we, the Bengali community, we accepted the da'wah and we became Muslim through their hands. And it's really a regretful situation today that the two communities stand apart, stand alone without joining hands. With that, once again, I would like to apologize that I'm not a speaker. I have lots of flaws in my character, plus the ability to deliver the message. Therefore, I would ask all of you to ignore my flaws and accept the message. For the message is not from me. The message is from a man who walked on this earth 1400 years ago. The message is from a man who did not have the luxury of privacy. We know everything about him. We know what he did when he was in front of people. We know what he did when he was not in front of people. We know how he ate. We know how he slept. We even know how he used the restroom. And analyzing his life, you will not find a single flaw in him. And that in and of itself is a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is such a person about him we'll be speaking today. His name is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. His name itself was uncommon during the Arabs of his time. His name is the Ismul Maf'ul of Hamad. Hamada yuhammidu, and then Hummida yuhammadu, and Ismul Maf'ul Muhammad, and also the Dhaf Muhammad. What it means is the one who is praised. His other name is Ahmad, that's Ismul Tafdil of Hamd, which means the one who is more praised, or depending on the sentence, the most praised. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about him, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبُكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Say, if you should love Allah, then follow me. Allah will love you and forgive you your sins. And Allah is forgiving and merciful. This is the Prophet who is the final Prophet, and there will not be any prophets after him. This is the Prophet who could not read or write. And yet, to him came the first kalima of the Quran, اقرأ. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. خلق الإنسان من علق. اقرأ وربك الأكرم. Before I dive into the subject, I'd like to give a simple example from the life of Rasulullah before the prophethood, just to show you what his character is all about. This is the story about Zayd bin Haritha. Zayd bin Haritha, his parents were from different tribes. And when he was young, one time his mother took him to a place to spend some time with him. At that time, a small fight broke out between his mother's tribe and his father's tribe, as it was common in that time. So his maternal uncles kidnapped him from his mother and sold him as a slave to hurt his father. And from his slavery to different masters, he eventually landed in the house of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. And from her, he came into contact with Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When his father came to know about him that he resided in Mecca in the household of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came rushing. He asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was still not a prophet but a noble man of Quraysh with good character and the best of character. He begged him, please give me my son. I'll give you everything that I owe. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam made it a point, and he asked Zaid that here is, do you know who this is? Zaid said, this is my dad. And which his dad was his uncle. So Rasulullah asked, who is that person beside him? And he said, that is my uncle. Then Rasulullah told him, if you want, you can go with them, free. I will not accept any money, you can go free. Or if you want, you can stay with me. What Zaid said was amazing. He said that, he basically said that I would rather stay with you as a slave. This is something that his father could not believe, his uncle could not believe, and it's also difficult for us to understand why a person, given the chance to be free of bondage, would not become free and rather stay as a slave. This goes to show you the love that Rasulullah had for Zaid, which in turn Zaid bin Haritha had for Rasulullah. This goes to show you how Rasulullah treated even the menial people, menial in terms of social status, even the people who have less social status around him, so much so that even they loved him. This is just a simple example from before the prophethood, which stands as a statement towards the character of Rasulullah. In my short lecture today, I would like to point out some of the things which are missing from our society, which are, either lost sunnah or about to be lost. I would like to start with the pursuit of knowledge. Now, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, that the first kalima that came from Rasulullah was Iqra. We all know that Rasulullah was not a literate person. He could not write his own name. Now, it's interesting that to this person came the revelation, and the first word being Iqra. It shows us the importance of education, the importance of seeking knowledge. We see how Rasulullah put importance on it during, or actually the aftermath, the Battle of Badr. When they had hostages, Rasulullah told quite a lot of hostages that teach the Sahaba how to read and write and you will go free. Well, it was common that time to have hostages and ransom them for a lot of gold or a lot of weapons or armory or horses. But he chose some of his hostages, he chose them to be free by teaching the Sahaba how to be literate. What we find in the current education system is they don't teach life skills anymore. They don't teach us the value of always going after knowledge, and I guarantee you they do not teach, the public schools, they definitely don't teach to pursue the knowledge of the Quran. It is the Quran that will make you taste the fruit, the sweetness of the Iman, halawatul Iman. I'd like to give a scenario. Let's say a person who's a doctor and he makes a lot of money, but he never learned the Quran. When he's old and his practicing days are over, practicing medicine days are over, and he feels this restlessness in him, what does he do? He tries to go out, join different medical associations, join different clubs, and try to teach younger children, which is all good. But not all of us are doctors. And there are many of us, when we get old, we don't know what to do. That results in depression. The seeking of the Quran, the memorizing of it, the reviewing of it, the practicing the tafsir of it, this is an ongoing sweetness that you can enjoy even in your old age if you start early. Because indeed, when you grow older, it's difficult to memorize, difficult to remember, but it's not impossible. It's a shameful thing that today there are many high-paying jobs, and there are many people who are doing them, but they don't even know how to read the Quran. They don't have a connection with the Quran. What that does is that fills their hearts with holes. They feel emptiness in their heart, because this is the book, the Quran, from which all of this civilization came, this entire state, all of this came by the revelation of the Quran. And what the Rasul said, some hadith about seeking knowledge. Whoever takes up a path in which he is trying to acquire knowledge, Allah will facilitate him a road to Jannah, recorded in Sahih Muslim. He also said in another hadith, this world is cursed, and what is in it is also cursed, except the remembrance of Allah and what is conducive, meaning what leads to that, what helps to that, or one who has knowledge or who acquires knowledge. Rasul placed an incredible amount of significance to knowledge. We see in our modern life, if you are not in the pursuit of knowledge, your understanding starts to decrease. Your mind is not as sharp as it's supposed to be. What that happens is, me as a professional, I found that when I started learning more of the Quran and the Islamic knowledge, my performance in the work increased. I'm able to understand and retain information much faster. It also applies to the students. If you are in the path of learning Islamic knowledge, the knowledge of Quran, the knowledge of Sunnah, the tafsir, it will help you in your own studies of the academic knowledge. In our knowledge, and it is the lack of knowledge that leads us to different situations where we find our youth without life skills, the skills of keeping good relations. See, making new good relations and keeping the ties, this is not a knowledge that is taught in college. College talks about individualism, which is also important in our daily life. A man should be able to carry himself. But we also need the knowledge or the skill how to keep relations with each other, with my uncle, with my aunt, with my nephews, with my cousins, and how to make relations with other people. Me, I remember when I came to Michigan, I had no relative, I didn't know any people. It's that skill, the skill from the Quran and Sunnah of how to make friends, how to keep relations, what to do. That knowledge led me to where I am today. This is a knowledge, and I can't stress it enough. These knowledge are not taught in college. You have to find it in other place, and the best place is through history. Through the people who have successfully kept their relationships with other people and made new relations. And the best of it is the example of Rasul. Rasul was a prophet, and to him came angels. When he was hurt in Ta'if, the angel came and said, if you want, I can bring the azab to them. Then in Badr, lots of angels came down to help him. But the interesting part is this, even though there were angels to help him, he still needed the help of people. And this is actually the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the norm of this life. That if you are to live in this life, you need to have people around you. Yes, we don't put our complete trust in the people themselves. Having people, having different friends, having relations, these are all means. The ultimate trust is upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because He is Al-Wakil. Rasul, he had the help of Sahaba in Badr, he had the help of Sahaba in all the battles that came after that. He even did Mashura with the Sahaba in many battles, many plans. That shows us that we need to have this skill of how to create relationships, how to say salam properly, how to give gifts, how to call to each other, during the times of need and when there is no need, without disturbing the person, and find out how they are doing. How always to be involved. Because this involvement will bring the love between each other. And I think this is also an approach that was done by Masjid Ali to get the Bengali community involved, to get in touch with them. That being said, it is also a common phenomenon today for people to suffer from depression. I mean, especially the youth, or especially the young adults who are working, who don't have time to go out and make friends. Brother is working long shifts, and then he's studying, and then his parents to take care of, and then he's married. He doesn't have much time with himself. And what happens is he finds himself lonely. Still then, we can see from the life of Rasulullah that he was the busiest of all people. He had wars to plan, he had defense to plan from the attack of outside, he had to plan the community, he had to plan the economy, and he had to be a husband, he had to be a leader, he had to be a prophet, he had to deliver the revelations. Even then we find him talking to a small boy, that, "Oh Abu Numayr, where is your little bird?" He even does not forget about the people who don't have the best of status in society. One example is the Sahaba Judaybi radhiyallahu anhu. He complained to Rasulullah that, "I don't have any chance of getting married, I'm not good looking, I don't have money, I don't have status, and now I'm old." Now, I want you to understand this. A person of, less status in the society talking to the highest, most respected, and the leader of the society. And they're talking privately. That doesn't happen today. If you don't have ties, if you don't have family ties, if you don't have wealth, if you don't have friends, you cannot get your message to the person on the top. Most definitely not directly. You gotta find somebody. You gotta find a middleman. If it's the mayor of the city, you cannot just go and talk to him. But that was not the case in the time of Rasulullah. This person, this Sahaba, and his own issue of not getting married, he was able to convey that message directly to Rasulullah with very ease, with comfort. That goes to show you what kind of relationship Rasulullah had with everybody. So as the story goes, he goes into the masjid and he says, "Who is there who will give their marriage who is there who will give the daughter in marriage?" And I'm asking. Then immediately one Sahaba said, "It's an honor, it's a great honor, it's the coolness of my eyes." Then Rasulullah said, "It's not for me, it's for Julaybi." Goes to show you how Rasulullah helped Julaybi by using his own power as the leader. So eventually the Sahaba goes back, consult with his wife, consult with his daughter. His daughter said, and then this is another interesting part, his daughter said, "Don't look at who is asking for marriage, or actually don't look at the suitor, meaning don't look at to whom I'm about to get married, but look at who is asking, who is mediating, who is the mediator. Look who is asking, look who is proposing to you." Basically, she felt that Rasulullah proposed on behalf of Julaybi, and it is because Rasulullah proposed she has to marry him. So she agreed. We all know the story that eventually he got money from dowry from the Sahaba, but instead of marrying, he used that money to go into war, because he never had a chance to buy weapons or swords or any armor or horse to go to war, and that was during the time of Battle of Uhud. So we ended up going to Uhud, and he ended up dying there. And Rasulullah gave us the good news that he saw Julaybi in Jannah entering to his wife in Jannah. Another fact that we can learn from the life of Rasul is gratitude. Indeed, today, the peer pressure, the struggle of peer pressure is a real thing. Many of us, we often find our peers, they have big house, lots of money, and they're enjoying life while we may not have as much money as them because we chose to stay halal. We chose not to go to interest to buy house immediately. We chose not to go into haram jobs and to stick with halal, and that leads us to less pay. The peer pressure is truly a real thing, and it is found in mental study that one of the common cures or one of the easier cures for peer pressure and depression through peer pressure is gratitude. And this is also found in the life of Rasulullah, where we know that he was already promised Jannah. He was ma'soom, and even then he would wake up at night and pray till his feet are swelled, to such an extent that his wife Aisha anha, she said, "Why do you do this? You are already forgiven. You are already ma'soom. Why do you have to do this?" And Rasulullah replied, "Should I not be a thankful slave? Should I not be a thankful slave? أَفَلَا أَكُونُ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا?" This concept of shukr, I believe this sunnah is being lost, if not totally lost. We look at the life of Rasulullah, he used to thank Allah for everything. When putting on clothes, when eating, well, after eating, even after finishing the bathroom needs. In our life, we don't thank him much. We don't sit and contemplate that, yes, we have food today, we have a roof today, while many parts of the world people are dying out of hunger, out of fear, out of babies are dying because they don't have enough food. Mothers are dying, pregnant mothers are dying because they have malnutrition, they don't have enough sustenance. While we are sitting here and we are not thanking for all of these, instead we're always looking to the one who is on top of us, who has more money than us, and we're trying to pursue him. And in that effort, we may end up going into haram, and we suffer through depression. The cure for depression is in the life of Rasulullah, is in gratitude. This is a sunnah that needs to be revived. We need to be taught, especially our youth, they need to be taught the importance of gratitude, both verbally and internally. But once again, how would the youth or how would people that have been living here so far know what they have? Because oftentimes we get so indulged in what we have, we forget outside of our comfort zone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, أَوَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَيَنْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلُ. Basically what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says is, didn't you travel in the world and didn't you see what the previous nations have gone through? He wanted the Sahaba and he wanted the people of that time to ponder upon what other nations have passed through in the previous times. In our times, we have the blessing of history, recorded history. We have recorded history from Islam, we have recorded history from non-Muslims, we have recorded history from many different media that we can all look at and we can see how the lives were in those times, and more importantly how lives are in these times, especially in parts of the world that are not blessed. Parts of the world like Syria, Yemen, and other parts where people are being oppressed, and in poor countries like in Africa and even in Bangladesh where people are suffering and people are going through poverty. Because looking at those and pondering about those will give us the tawfiq to understand what we have and help us to show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One other aspect from the life of Rasul we can learn is brotherhood. And the effort that is necessary to make new brotherhood, the effort that requires us to go out of our comfort zone to different community and to meet with them, knowing that they may not take your word immediately, or they may ignore you, or the effort that it requires to make a gathering, inviting different community, knowing that some may come, some may not come. All of these efforts goes beyond our comfort zone. And these efforts are part of Sunnah. Rasul he himself used to be a dignitary, going out to different groups and talking to them. And a certain situation comes in top of my head. That was before the Hijrah. During the Hajj time, he was going to all different tents of the Hujjaj, of all different tribes, and he was asking them, he was presenting his own message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to them. And he was rejected by a lot of people. Until finally, he came to see those little tents, those few people with almost no money at all from the tribes of Medina. He didn't know who they were. So he inquired about them and he went and talked to them. And from history we know that it is to those tribes, to these people from Medina, that he eventually did hijrah to, and the people of Medina had the honor to have Rasul with them till his death. What I want to point out is Rasul was going out of his comfort zone to try to make new relations. That's the entire point. Because back in Makkah at that time, he didn't have the comfort to sit there and not make any new relations because they were being persecuted. With us, we think that we don't need other communities, we don't need other people. We have a community of our own, and we're good enough. That's not true. Because until and unless we're all united, until and unless we have strong ties with each other, with different communities, we will not learn from each other, nor will we be able to grow. And the coming generations, the knowledge will be lifted, and 2 or 3 generations later, there will not be people with any knowledge, and all the fitan will get involved. I mean, we already know today in our society that I'm not going to mention any names, but there are groups, there are gatherings which are under the name of Islam, but because of lack of guidance, because of lack of knowledge, they're going in the wrong direction. There are boys and girls talking without supervision, or unnecessary money is wasted. All of those are because of lack of knowledge, because they were not guided properly. This lack of knowledge within the coming generation, it's a real thing. It's because the children that grew up here and go to private school, what they are taught is to learn about the current life, to live. It's one life and the pursuit of happiness, all of these, they are not taught about the akhirah. And as a result of that, their hearts are taken away from pursuing knowledge of history, of the history of the Sahaba, history of Islam. So that's why I feel like the communities, we should come together, we should learn from each other, and we should imply and implore each other to put on more gatherings and more knowledge gatherings, more halaqat, and to guide our youth together. I also like to point out an ayah or a couple ayah from the Quran, from Surah Al-Hujurat. إنما المؤمنون إخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون. Verily the mu'min, the believer,